Hey guys, welcome to the top percentile. My name is Anay Dave and I scored a rank of 9 or 99.99 percentile in CET 2020. What a lot of you might not know is that I also scored a 99.86 percentile in CAT 2020. And since this channel has predominantly been a CET channel, we never really spoke about this or we didn't cover CAT topics as much. But now, since a lot of you are in the place and are planning to take CAT now, since CET probably was not as you expected, it was not the mixture of questions or the pattern that you expected, and maybe you were not able to give it your best. So a lot of you are planning to take CAT and are in the same position that I found myself in last year. So I thought the best way to resolve all of these questions was to just make a couple of videos about it. So I've planned out 4 videos so far. The first one is going to be this one, which is mainly about my story. It's going to be about how I prepared, what was my situation, what was the mentality or the mindset that you require in order to crack CAT after doing CET. The second video will be about the sectionals, about each and every section, about the strategy change that takes place from CET to CAT, but it'll also be useful for someone who's directly preparing for CAT. So it's not only CET CAT comparison. It'll also be about how to prepare for CAT sections and how you go about the entire thing. The third one will be how to analyze your mocks. I've already made a video on CET, but this one will be a lot about CAT specific things, because I think there's a slight difference when it comes to CET and CAT. I'll explain that in the mock analysis video about how I planned out the entire thing. And the fourth video will be about any question that you have. So in the comments, please drop in all the questions that you would want to ask or that you want answered. A lot of you did reach out to me on Telegram. So in case you've not joined a group, the link will be in the description. Please join the group. You can reach out to us with your questions. I already have a list of around 10 questions that I'll be answering in that video. Apart from that, I'll be leaving a link in the description. It'll be a Google form link. So if you have any questions, you can drop me questions over there. Just feel free to ask what you want, or just the best place would be the comment section down below. It'll be the easiest for me to find as well. But you can drop in any of these 3 places. I'll be happy to answer. So come to the point of the topic, which is my story. I'll just start off with a couple of questions or a couple of introductory things that I would want to answer. So the first thing, the most common question that I get is, why did I take CAT? Why did I take CAT after getting a CET percentile of 99.99, after knowing that I would get a seat in one of the top B schools, that is Jamnalal Bajaj? Why did I still decide to take CAT after getting there? So to explain this, I'll just give a little bit of context to the entire story about how things were at that time. So I took CET in March of 2020. I think 14th of March was my day. I was in the first day, first slot. So 14th of March 2020. The results are supposed to come out in around the end of March or the start of April. But as you guys know, there were a lot of court cases. There was a pandemic going on. Everything was happening at that time. There still is a pandemic, but at that time, it was all new to us. It was extremely new, and the first wave was kicking in. So a lot of things were not in place. And because of that, the results firstly were delayed by 2 months. I think the 23rd March was when the results came out. After that, college was supposed to start in August, but that also got delayed. And as you guys know, it started off in January for us. But back in September, I was wondering what I should be looking at. I was very close to a couple of mentors at IMS, mainly Shreekanth Merugu sir and Prasad Sawant sir. And I asked them, what should I be doing here? And they told me that you should look at CAT as an option. So their guidance was basically to try to take a CAT pass paper, see how much I can score. If I get a score above 100, go ahead and take it. That is what they had told me. I asked a couple of friends as well as to what I should be doing. So I'd asked Shlok, I'd asked Warren about, so Shlok is at XLRI currently, and Warren is at IIM Bangalore. I asked them what I should be doing. And they also told me that, just take a couple of mocks and see how things are. Even if anything happens, you don't have to worry about it. You can just take the exam and see how it goes. So that's how my entire thing started. I just thought I should just take the first mock. And a little more backstory to this was that in 2019, I had registered for CAT. I was in the slot with the British imperialism essay. Seasoned CAT takers will know what I'm referring to. I've forgotten which slot that was. I think it was the first or second slot. But I was in that slot, but my center was in Pune. And I didn't think at that time, since it wasn't my main exam, I didn't think at that time it was important for me to spend a day going all the way to Pune. And I preferred, and I think college exams are going on around that time. So I thought it's better to just focus on CET and not take the exam. So after this, I decided to first take a mock test. So I took that same paper that I sat for. I took it at home. Since you get everything online, I took the paper. And I set a timer. I took a 3-hour timer. At that time, CAT was 3 hours long. So I took a 3-hour timer. And Shashank sir told me that if you get above 100, go for it. You should take CAT. I took the paper. I scored a 190. 190 was a lot more than what any of us expected, and 190 would have been around a 99.9x percentile. After getting such a score, I knew that I had to take the exam. I knew that I had to give it my best at least and see whatever happens at the end of it would happen. I also reached out to a couple of mentors and seniors who I had in life, and I spoke to a couple of my close friends who were more like soundboards. I spoke to Prateek, Shlok, and Lastika about whether this plan made sense, and their opinion was also the same, that you have nothing to lose right now. If you get it, it's just upside. There is no downside to this. And this was around the time of September, so I think I was probably in the last slot. I think the last day to book CAT around that year was the first or second week of September. And on the last day, I had entered my name and booked the seat at that time. So that is the type of decision that I made. But the main decision over here at that point was that I was already in JBIMS, but the upside would be if I got into, let's say, IMCA A, B, C, or XLRI FMS. These were the colleges I was looking at when I initially took the paper, and that's all I was looking at. These were the only colleges I applied to, and this is all I had. Now, what happened in CAT? So just to talk to you guys about my score, I scored a 99.86 percentile overall. I scored a 99.12 percentile in VARC, a 99.97 percentile in DILR, and I think a 97 percentile in QA. So that's quants. So that was approximately I'm not sure of the exact numbers, but that was approximately the score I got. This was a raw score of 120. I was in the second slot, and we had a very tough DLR section. And as a result of that, since I got a 99.97 percentile in DILR, it got jumped. My score scaled up to 128, almost 128. So that was a huge jump because of this. And in CAT, it's pretty transparent, the normalization process. You can read documents about it. They're pretty open about which questions you got right, which ones you haven't. So you know that it has been done properly. I think CET has to become more transparent in this aspect. In CAT, you get the peace of mind that yes, things have happened, you've answered them correctly, or what has happened in the entire thing. So coming to, this was my CAT score. As you guys know, my quant was not the strongest. I got a 97 percentile, which is the lowest in this. It's not a bad score, but obviously it's not a bad score at all. But compared to the other two 99 percentile, this was a much lower score in comparison. So coming to the CAT timeline about where I was, as I explained, mid-September was when I applied for CAT, when I filled the form for CAT. And CAT, like this year, was in the end of November. It was the last Sunday, I think the 28th of November, if I'm not wrong. I would be wrong, maybe it's the 23rd, I'm not sure. But it was somewhere in November, and I had 2 months to go for it. So the first thing that I did was ask my friends how to go about it. So I spoke with Shlok, I spoke with Warren. Shlok had scored a 99.73 percentile in CAT in the year before this, so 2019. And he told me, buy IMS mocks, go for the mocks, just study from the mocks, and that's the main thing you have to do. Everything else you'll manage through mocks and through practice. So that's what I did. I bought IMS mocks. So my first mock was on 28th of September, 28th of September, and it was only 62 days that I had after this. So just an overview of my prep, I took around 23 mocks. I took a lot of sectionals, all the sectionals that IMS had to offer. I also took the past CAT papers. I think in the mock analysis video, I'll show you a proper Excel sheet of the exams that I took, the exact mocks that I've taken, the scores that I've got as well. I'll be releasing everything, so stay tuned for that. But all the data was public. All the data will be given out. I had solved a lot of questions is the point. And the main idea over here was to just practice as much as possible. Now, as you guys know, CAT pattern and CET pattern is quite different. I think a CAT pattern in CAT, it's more the art of selecting questions, while in CET, it's more robotic, just solving as much as you can, as fast as you can. While in CAT, you need to kind of think about which question you're solving, how you're going to do it, and what's the best way to solve it. It requires more thinking, and for that, they give you more time as well. So in CET, you have 150 questions in 200 minutes. While in CAT, I'm not sure about this year, but it's usually more on the positive side, as in you have more than 1 minute to solve one question. So you usually have 2 to 3 minutes to solve a question. And in CAT, there are some questions that are so easy that you'll be able to do them in around 20 to 30 seconds easily, without doubt. And you'll have even more time for the tough questions. That is the strategy that I used. You have to go for the low-hanging fruit first, and then go for the other things. I'll explain that again in depth in the strategy video. So that's the second video coming out. Stay tuned for that. It's going to be a really good video. I'll be talking in depth about each and every section. But the main pattern over here, the difference over here that a lot of you would be knowing as well is the presence of negative marking. If you mark an answer and you get it wrong, you get negative marks over here. That was not the case in CET. So we had a habit of marking on 200 questions. That unfortunately does not translate well over here. You'll be reducing your score, and that does not make sense. So the strategy for that, in short, is just attempt what you know, leave what you don't. And knowing what you know is also an art which comes through practice. In the mock analysis video, I'll be explaining how around the 5th of November, which is around the time you'll be probably watching this video, since that's the time I'll be releasing this. That was the time which was extremely pivotal to changing my mock preparation, changing my entire CAT preparation, where I went from scoring 80, around 80 in average, to getting around 120 to 130 in average. What I did was over there will be explained very much in depth in that video. Again, it was mainly selection to answer. In short, it was mainly selection of questions and actually answering those questions first. In short, it was that, but for an in-depth explanation, please stay tuned for that video. I'll be explaining a lot over there. When it comes to CAT, as I explained, it's more of an art. The mentality that you require, the mindset that you need for this is more about a marathon. It's about finishing constant things again and again, keeping track that, okay, if a particular section is going wrong, it's fine. I can always build up somewhere else, and I can take another set and get marks over there. Let's switch on to something else. It's more about a marathon towards the end of the paper rather than a sprint, which was CET, where you're just solving questions as they come one after the other, without actually thinking too much about the strategy that you use. It's more about, you see a question, you think you can solve it, you solve it. CET had very less decision making, while in CAT you at least require 3 to 4 minutes of decision making. That is the biggest difference that I can tell you in that. Now, when it came to my preparation included a lot of mocks, as explained. So I had only taken IMS mocks. There were no other mocks that I took. The reason I took IMS mocks was firstly because I knew mentors over there, and I trust the mentors at IMS. There is no doubt about that. Plus, I think when it comes to CAT, there is a lot of unpredictability. You can have any type of questions in it. You never see the same questions again. It's like, if I have solved the past papers, it's not that the next year is going to be the same. If I've done all the past papers, the next year can be something completely different, testing me somewhere else. It's more about the thought process you have. So you want someone who gives you that kind of question. Now, IMS, I believe, does give you a lot of those. It gives you a lot of variety in their mocks. And in fact, in my year, they had varied the number of questions as well, because that was a question mark, like how the question paper was set because of the COVID pandemic. Instead of the 3 hours, it was a 2-hour paper, but they didn't tell how many questions would be there. So in that sense, IMS had also prepared us for that. So I think they were really helpful to me in that preparation. Plus, since I had connections, since I had a communication channel with the mentor, it helped me a lot. Plus, there was a thing known as CAT 100. There's a blog known as CAT 100 Percentile, and there is also a group. If you score in IMS mocks, if you're able to score well in IMS mocks, I suggest reach out to them and tell them that you are scoring well in IMS mocks, you're getting the top ranks. They will add you to the groups where they mentor you specifically. So please find out how it works. I'm not sure how it worked. I luckily had communication channels with them during CET, which is why I was able to get this. But please reach out and ask them how you get into these groups, and please try and get into these groups. There is a lot of learning. So I had direct conversations with the blogger known as CAT 100 Percentile or Scrabbler. A lot of people know who he is, but I won't be taking his name because he prefers that. He taught me a lot of things, and he gave me perspective on a lot of things about how to solve mocks, which actually helped me a lot in CAT. It was about how to solve it fast, how to look at many things differently. It was about the perspective that you really require. And I think that one thing helped me a lot here. So please find out, if you have the mocks, please firstly score as high as you can in them and try to get into this group. It is, I forgot the name of it, but please tell them that you're scoring in the top ranks. If you're getting a 99 percentile or 98 percentile in their mocks, firstly, that's your aim. Secondly, send them messages, speak to the receptionist, speak to the team at IMS, and tell them that you're scoring this and you would like to be a part of groups if possible, where you can have a lot of peer learning. Because trust me, for CAT, it is a wonderful place to be. It is going to help you a lot, and it is something that helped me a lot in that. Now, when it comes to the blog that I mentioned, the CAT 100 Percentile blog, it has, if you go through it, just Google CAT 100 Percentile. Scrabbler is the person who has written this, and he has explained so many concepts about the way you have to think. It's like there are new ways to think about every difficult problem, and he simplifies it and gives it to you. So I do suggest going through his blog. Another person who I recommend highly when it comes to CAT is Patrick Sir. We all know him, Patrick D'Souza. Now both Patrick Sir and Scrabbler Sir, both of them are serial CAT 100 percentilers. I think Shashank Sir also will be now. So who else to learn from them than these people? So just So Patrick Sir himself has a wonderful YouTube channel. You can always go through his channel. He's solved past CAT papers. I've gone through the solutions myself, and that's where I learned how to solve better things. Likewise, the CAT 100 percentile blog also has a lot of this data. There is also a blog by Tony Xavier, but I've forgotten the name of it. He has a blog called GMAT Web, I think, but that's for GMAT. He also has, I think, the catwriter.com. Just Google the cat writer, you will get his blog as well. That is more about the strategy aspects of things. So when it comes to CAT, it's very different from what you need in CET. And even though we had a course for CET, I think we had a couple of questions about this, so I'll just talk about this. We had a course for CET, but we are not planning one for CAT as of now. It requires a lot of work, firstly. And when you have people like this already who are doing so much, who have guided me itself, we believe that is not required in this case, because they're literally there to help you guys. So just look at these blogs, look at the YouTube channels. You'll find a lot of content out there. Please use this to the maximum as much as possible. We ourselves do not believe that we'll be able to enhance this quality by making our own course. So we will not be making any courses, but as a recommendation, there is the IMS mocks. Mocks you can get from, I think IMS mocks for me were the best. You can look at time, see recommendations from others, but for me, IMS mocks were what I took. The second is the CAT 100 percentile blog. The third would be Patrick Sir's YouTube channel. The fourth would be the Cat Writer blog. I think there's a lot more available online. I'm sure I'm forgetting a lot. Just go through all of this. You'll find a lot of data on this. Now, when it comes to my plan, as I mentioned, 62 days, 23 mocks, mainly sections, and there was a change in focus in the middle. I'll be explaining this in depth, what my section strategy was, how I changed it from CET to CAT and everything. But to just sum it up, I don't want to keep this a very long video. I just wanted to be about what my prep was, what my reasons were. Oh, one thing that I forgot to mention in the start, so I'll just wrap it all up now. But as I mentioned, I got this particular score in CAT, but I had only applied to ABC, Excel and FMS. Excel, as you know, has the exam ZAT. So I got through XLRI and FMS, but since I was already in JBIMS and I had got a summer internship at JP Morgan, I decided it's not worth switching and wasting a year doing an MBA. I thought it's better to just switch out. And that kind of leads me to my explanation about advice that I have for aspirants. So I did not get a call from IIM Ahmedabad, Bangalore, or Calcutta. Now, I had a 99.86, but I am a general engineering male. I also have lower marks in 12th, so I have a 78% percentage in 12th, which is not good enough even for IIM Calcutta, which has an 80% cutoff for their top scores. So if I had a 99.9x rather than 99.86, I think it would have been possible to get a call from IIM Calcutta. But it's perfectly fine. I think things pan out the way you want them to, the way you deserve it to. It's perfectly okay. Things will, but the advice I'm trying to give over here is that you need to know what you're doing an MBA for. I've repeated this earlier, but I'm going to say it again. You need to know what you're doing an MBA for, what your end goal is. Are you doing it for the job? Are you doing it for the prestige? Are you doing it just to be in a college? Just remember that getting into an MBA college is the first step. There is a lot more after that. You have to go for placements, you have to go for jobs. Which jobs do you want? Is the college that you're going to be a part of, is it going to give you those jobs? Do you want to start your own startup? Does it have an incubation center? Does it have what it takes to, give you the learning that you require to go ahead? There's a lot that plays into this. But when it comes to advice, just kind of keep a track of these colleges, what their cutoffs are, what marks they would require. I knew that I had an uphill battle because I had a lower academic score and I do not have WorkX. But at the same time, I knew that there was only upside. And when I look back at it, I think it was a wonderful decision to make. It definitely made sense to go and take CAT because if anything at all, I have confidence that I got a 99.86 percentile, one of the toughest exams in India. And that would be around the top 200 or 250 students in India. So I think that was really something that's like a chip on my shoulder, right? It's something that if I'd not taken the exam, I would never really even think about this. But since I have got it now, I feel like it's a thing that I feel even prouder than my CET score, which was rank 9. But I feel even prouder than that in my CAT score because I think it required a lot more thinking and a lot more quality effort rather than repetitive predictive things that were needed in CET. As I explained in CET videos, that is what's needed in CET. But in CAT, it was more thinking and more creative thinking. That's what I really enjoyed during the process. So if I have any advice, it's firstly, plan out why you're doing an MBA, which colleges are you going to, what their cutoffs would be. And lastly, just keep in mind that this journey is a very enjoyable journey. Do not look at it as something that's an obstacle. Do not look at it as something that's a path that you have to fight against. I was already against all odds. It was against all odds for me to even take CAT, but I took it. And I mean, it's a different situation. You can look at it in one way that, yeah, he had JBIMS, yet he went for these exams. But at the same time, even though I knew that it was an uphill battle in CAT, I wanted to do it. And even if I did not get into ABC, XL, and APC, I am very happy with the college that I have, because it has given me what I required currently in the current state of my life. And that's the point I'm trying to drive. You need to know what place you want to be and where you want to go. But since I have got a summer placement at JP Morgan and in a role that I really enjoyed during the internship, I believe that was what helped me figure out that I want to do this currently. So that's the idea. Just this just had to be a light video. I think I've already gone past the amount of time that I wanted this to be, but that's what happens when you keep talking to a camera and there are people listening, hopefully. So I'll see you guys in the next video. I'll leave a link in the description. You'll find a link to the Google form. So please drop in your questions, but rather just leave comments. It becomes easier for us to find and reply to comments also if needed, rather than Google Forms and skipping. If I skip someone's question, you might feel bad. So rather just leave the comments so I can always answer it later if I don't include it in the video. But I hope this video helps. There are 3 more videos coming up soon after this and more if you guys request. If you guys have requests and want some particular things apart from what I've spoken about. But that wraps up for now. See you guys in the next video, and all the best, guys. Thank you.